My name is Evan Dixon. I've been a music educator now for 17 years. And when I met Clark, I was teaching at Deer Valley High School, running the bands and the orchestras there. I met him via an adjudication job that we both had, teaching and judging middle school orchestra festival. And speaking to him about his materials and really getting into depth about how it was, I really found that it was going to be very beneficial for my students. So almost immediately started incorporating a bunch of it. With his materials, it gave a very clear and logical pathway to finding really high level musicianship. And going into the core curriculum of what he has, it just lays out a very logical sequence of learning left hand skills and combining that with our right hand bow hand to just open up music and for the students to understand really what they're going for. I'm on my third year of using the program, and it has a learning curve on the teacher end for sure, understanding really where we're going and getting the overall scope of the program. But each year there's definitely a beginning point and how to incorporate it and going forward with each of the students. And as my students return year after year, they get a lot more comfortable with it too, and they're able to go into the peer coaching aspect of it, which is a really wonderful aspect. You know, the more we have students teaching students, the faster we can continue to grow and learn and get to really the fun part of music making. With Clark, he's a very personable man and very easy to understand and get along with. And then jumping into the program, it just was very logical. It was step by step. It was laid out in a way that really works well with how I teach. And with that, having step-by-step logical sequential steps to go through to really understand orchestra playing and understand and unlocking music, it was a way that my students could very easily and systematically get into what they're playing and get to the next level of performance in a much quicker way than what I was doing. So really the appeal to me was it was logical, sequential, in order, and easy to comprehend where the next step was. So my students could really excel very quickly. Yeah, Clark is a pretty wonderful human being. He's always willing to help and willing to come out. You know, a text or a phone call, he responds almost immediately every time. With my program, he was able to come out once a week and work with us. We brought him on as an instrumental coach. So he was actually in the classroom once a week. Through the COVID times, he was on Zoom once a week with us and continued to work with that. So it is very easy and accessible to talk to him and really get clarification on things. And then watching him instruct and teach the students, he also is a master educator. So it's very clear he knows how to bond with them, how to speak to them in a way that is engaging and treating them as young adults, and in a way that he's able to gauge the room and see the level that the students are on. So he can continue to help those individuals, you know, some of them moving faster, which is fine, and some of them moving slower, which is fine, and is able to gauge that and get the support to the students that's needed based on their level. The first thing I would point to people is to jump into the rhythm workshop part of Clark's whole curriculum going forward. Because no matter what part of music you're looking at, you know, whether it be band, orchestra, choir, anything there, guitar class, anything you're doing, having rhythmic accuracy is absolutely essential to music performance. And the way that Clark's program really lays out the rhythm workshop, each one of those individual levels, continuing to build those skills and really hone them in the duet process that he has, is unbelievably valuable, and you can instantly see results in that. So it's something that to really get you bought into the program and see, you know, the thought process behind it and how quickly it can really help out. From there, because of how open Clark is, if you dive into the whole entire program, it can be very massive. Coming in at the very beginning of it and just taking elements of it is the next thing I'd recommend to someone who's on the fence with it. If you just see, hey, my students are struggling with key signatures. You know, if you take that element, that video series, those lectures, those couple of quizzes and worksheets that he has with that, you can see pretty clearly the amount of growth your students will get with just taking bits and pieces of it to really begin with. And that's how I started with it too. I took bits and pieces saying, oh, this would be helpful here, this would be helpful here. So the first semester I really started working with Clark, I just started grabbing bits and pieces and going for it. As we went further into it and I got into, the second school year with it, I really dived all in with it and found like so much more efficiency with the system. It's almost silly to me on the other end of it to think that you wouldn't go all the way out. But again, if you're on the fence, the idea would be to start with bits and pieces. Say, this is a topic we're working on. Let's look at the materials and resources and just incorporate those into each individual lesson. On the advanced end of students, it is very easy in the program to just set them loose and say, go. And as they get into it, they really continue forward. And I had some students that within a week had completed literally everything. And we're like, I'm ready, let's go. So the great part about the program then is then those students you can turn into peer coaches and give a little bit more of a teaching role. So if someone in their section or someone in the orchestra or someone in the band that we're working with is a little behind or struggling, having that extra support of a peer coach come in is invaluable. And with how the system is set up, where it's sequential, it's logical, and some will thrive with that and go all the way through it. It is easy then for them to come around and say, okay, so this is, and speak more on and directly on the kid level of how to explain those different things and talk about mastery of a concept. If you're able to teach something, you really have a mastery of the concept. So being able to relay that to another one of your peers is invaluable to the learning process. I am an orchestra teacher, but primarily I'm a band teacher. And though the program is, even titled Key Shapes for Strings, using the elements of music and the elements of musicianship in the band classroom has been really invaluable too. Band students, just like orchestra students, need all of the same things. They need the key signatures, worksheets, and understanding and mastery. They need mastery of intervals and the half steps and whole steps. And they, in order to play in tune, they still also need that work that Clark has laid out with the intonation practice, the singing practice, and going through those things. So though the program is originally designed for strings, the adaptation for band is still at a really high level, and I would still really recommend it for band directors out there.